Mr. Burt Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson comes to us today as a completely bionic man, having various parts of his body now the status of a teenager, veritable
brand new
teenager.
Knee, brand new eye lenses, new hearing aid.
Congratulations.
I would like to start off by ending all speculation and state emphatically that I have not been offered the job of executive director. So anybody was
You didn't
worried
apply.
about that. What?
You didn't apply.
I'd also like to praise your independent science board. I think they're absolutely wonderful. I mean, I've gone to almost every meeting they've had or watched it on the tube, and I really think they're a great asset for the people of California.
We do too.
Yeah. I've got a few catch-up questions. You talked and you accepted the minutes of the last meeting about near-term projects.
Yes.
That you talked about. Will each one require an adaptive management plan?
Well, I guess the answer is it depends.
Pardon?
It depends on what the project is.
It depends?
Sure.
Okay, because the Independent Science Board says that each project you have to file an adaptive management plan before each project begins.
Well, Mr. Wilson, let me just give you an example. If you said, as the council has said before, that we urge the Department of Water Resources to consider establishing additional sites in the Delta to store flood-fighting material, including rocks to be used in emergency situations, I doubt that would require a full adaptive management of an emergency response storage site, although it might. God knows it might. So
Do you
that's
find
why
an answer for me? Because when I first went to the Independent Science Board and I said, what's the 800 number of adaptive management? Who's in charge? Nobody knew anything about what it was. They said, well, it will emerge. And then they finally said, they showed me a copy of an adaptive management plan of something that's going on, and they said, this has to be filed before anything is done. And Jerry Merrill said at the last BDCP meeting that an adaptive management plan for the tunnels would be filed along with the EIR.
Okay. And what do you want us to say about that?
Pardon?
I mean, we're trying to get comments on the final draft Delta plan, and you're talking about BDCP. I mean, tell me what
I'm talking about adaptive management.
Okay.
And its relationship to the plan.
Yes.
That's the core of my questions here.
The core of the question is, you've read the chapters on science and adaptive management.
Well, I've talked to the Adaptive Management Board, and I'm relating to you what they told me. And
well, I
wonder how.
My recommendation is you take a look at the science sections of the plan. You also take a look at the submission requirements in the event that there is a covered action within our jurisdiction. And if it's a covered action, one of the things that the information of the project proponent, I'm not sure that's the right word, but the project authority must submit is monitoring and oversight, including whatever requirements may be needed on adaptive management.
So covered action is the key to the...
Well, in terms of regulatory authority for the council, the regulatory authority is very obvious in the covered action scenario, because the legislature set up an approach that if a proposal of a state or a local agency meets the 4 statutory tests, then it's a covered action and could be reviewed by the council on appeal.
I would like to see a clarification of adaptive management somewheres.
Have you looked at the adaptive management appendix and the scientific appendix?
No, I've just talked to the scientists. They don't seem to.
Bert, suggestion is you'll want to actually go through the table of contents of the Delta plan and take a look at this. We've got a lot of stuff here that I think will be directly of interest to you. So, for
Okay.
example, in Chapter 2, starting on page 40, this is of the red line edition, science and adaptive management, and the Delta is discussed, best available science, adaptive management, a Delta science plan. I mean, they're replicated all the way through, and so is the discussion of covered actions repeatedly in the plan and in the appendices, and I
Well, I'll take your advice and see what I can
yeah,
come
if
up
you
with.
could, that would be appreciated. That would be appreciated.
Okay, can I ask a couple of catch-up questions?
Okay.
Is the funding still going to be on the beneficiaries' pay, which will cause people's water rates to rise? Is it?
As opposed to beneficiary doesn't pay, which
as
means somebody else.
opposed to putting a bond measure on the ballot?
We have said in the very limited financing plan of the Delta plan, which is recommendations only, it is not regulatory in nature, that beneficiary pays and those who stress the Delta should also participate in the payments. That is at least our policy expression. But that is not a regulation. It is not a binding characteristic. Interestingly enough, beneficiary pays is a phrase mentioned by the governor and the secretary of the Department of Interior in their recent press announcement. But if you're asking whether the Delta plan mandates that, no, we do not. We do not have the legal authority to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One more question. Jerry Merrill's been quoted again that's saying that the costing of the tunnels has only been about 30% completed. Do you understand? Have you heard that, or?
We, as you know, we have a potential appellate role on a portion of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, but we may not rewrite the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
And yes, we follow with great interest. Our scientists, our retained consultants follow with great interest all the permutations and releases of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. And their financing plan is not complete, and they've said it's not complete. What do you want us to say beyond that?
No, that's all.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to clarify those things in my mind because I haven't been here for a few months.
Okay.
I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thanks for seeing.